From Washington, D.C. to the heart of America, welcome to Mark Alford's America. I'm freshman Congressman from Missouri, Mark Alford, and I believe in America. I believe in you, and most importantly, I believe that our greatest days are still ahead. You know, each week we take you behind the scenes to share the stories, the news, legislation happening right here in Washington, D.C., and it's a chance for you to meet the great people whom I work with each and every day helping shape our great nation. Today, our guest is Congressman Jefferson Van Drew of New Jersey. Jeff's a lifelong advocate for South Jersey. He constantly delivers results for the veterans, seniors, consumers, and children. He got his BS degree from Rutgers University and his DMD degree from Fairleigh Dickinson University. He was a dentist for many years, and after owning and operating a dentist practice for about 30 years in South Jersey, he also served 3 terms in the New Jersey General Assembly, 4 terms in the Senate there in the state. He's serving his 3rd term in the U.S. House of Representatives. He's on the Judiciary Committee, the Transportation Infrastructure Committee. Please welcome Congressman Jefferson Van Drew. Jeff, good to see you.
It's good to see you, Mark. Thank you for having me. And you can call me Jeff as you want.
All right. Yeah. Well, how did Jefferson come about?
My dad loved history.
Yeah.
And he loved Thomas Jefferson. Who would not? I mean, he was a great man, a great mind. So he gave me that name. And so I did the same thing to my son, who was a Jefferson Jr. But I'm proud to have the name, actually. It was a little different when I was in elementary and middle school. It was like, oh, such a different name. And I was kind of, I always wouldn't say Jeff, but now I'm proud to be Jefferson.
Yeah. You're a Republican now. You weren't always a Republican. How did you go from dentistry into politics, and why were you a Democrat to begin with?
So it's a long road, but I started literally being a fire commissioner. And then I went from being a fire commissioner to being a councilman, from a councilman to mayor, from a mayor to a county commissioner, from a county commissioner to a state assembly member, a state rep, and then to state senate, and finally in Congress. I was a conservative. I've always been a conservative. There used to be such a thing as a conservative Democrat. We all loved America. And Democrats had some different ideas, and Republicans had some bit different ideas, but most times we came together on those fundamental, important issues. And I noticed that the party was changing around me more and more. You know, it's good to know Ronald Reagan was a Democrat who became a Republican. Mm-hmm. Mike Pence was a Democrat who became a Republican. And of course, Donald Trump was a Democrat who became a Republican. It was different. I didn't leave the party, it left me. And just quickly, it was a long progression, but, you know, when I was in Congress and when I started my first term as a Democrat, I noticed so much that I didn't like, so much that I didn't believe in. Just not believing in the fundamental truths and structure of the United States of America. The desire to impeach President Trump was one of the real big things, but there were other issues as well. Just, you know, essentially, I'll put it to you this way, and this is the question I think it really tells a lot. I remember in Judiciary Committee now, and I asked a couple of the Democratic witnesses, did they believe in American exceptionalism, that we are the best country on the face of the earth, that we are a shining city on the hill? And they couldn't answer it. They said they weren't sure. They didn't know. One of them actually said no. I love the United States of America. I love entrepreneurial endeavor, the ability for somebody to work hard. Democrats have what they call DEI, and I know you're very familiar with it, diversity, equity, and inclusion.
We have a bill to kill DEI programs in the federal government.
What does equity mean? Because people get mad. I know what it means. I know you do, Mark, too. By the way, for everybody listening, you have one of the best members of Congress in the United States of America. He works hard. He's focused. He's smart. He's nice, which is unusual to have that combination. And he loves his district and he loves his people, talks about them all the time. I am so proud to be your friend.
By the way, Jeff and I, and along with a couple of our members, hang down in the well during voting. And sometimes these voting sessions last a long time. And so we get to talk about our families and what's going on in our lives. We go to dinner together. So I appreciate your friendship. But back to the story of how you became a Democrat. You were talking with members on the Judiciary Committee, and they didn't see anything exceptional about America, and you took offense to that.
Correct. It just, and that bothers me. I mean, there's something wrong. Do you believe in this country? And we're not perfect, but we self-correct. We try to become better and better. It is an amazing and unique experiment in all of history, of all of world history. If we lose America, it will be horrible. We'll go into a dark time. But anyhow, so I believe that there are many Democrats now who don't believe in the America that you, Mark, and that I do love. And then it came to a head there were different bills and, different things I would argue with leadership when I was a Democrat in Congress for 1 year. And then they said, you must vote for the impeachment of Donald Trump. And I refused to do it.
They said you had to vote.
Had to vote for it. I was the lone member that did not vote for it. Huh. I stood by myself.
Why did you not vote as a Democrat for the impeachment of Donald?
Didn't do anything wrong. There was no impeachable offenses. I mean, it was really obvious that this was just a political witch hunt and that there was no substance to it and it wasn't the right thing to do. And they were frustrated because what scares them about Donald Trump, he's willing to expose the wound. He's willing to show what's really going on in D.C. D.C. needs to be cleaned up. Washington, D.C. is not a good place.
When folks back at home in the 4th District and in Missouri talk about the swamp, that's what they're talking about. It's an infection that needs to be drained.
It does. I don't even call it a swamp, and I'll tell you why. A swamp, and I know I'm in South Jersey, which is, by the way, for folks listening, where I live is beautiful. I have 6 acres. I live across the street from a 150-acre farm. Not all of New Jersey.
It's a garden state.
Exactly. But in any event, swamps can have beautiful flora and fauna, amazing animals and, plants and different things can live there. I call it a cesspool. Nothing lives in a cesspool, in a septic tank. Nothing lives in a septic tank. So I think the President Trump was being kind when he called it a swamp. But in any event, so I'm walking home with my chief and I said, you know what? I've been in politics a good number of years, all the way from township committeeman, all the way up to being in Congress. Politics, like life, has a cycle, and maybe mine's done, because I will not run as a Democrat again. I can't stand this party anymore, what it stands for. A lot of good Democrats that are still out there, moderates who believe in America. They might be pro-union or, have different feelings on certain issues. But anyhow, so, went home. Next day I got a call from the White House. He said, President Trump wants to meet with you. Well, you're not going to say no to that. So I met with him. We spent about an hour and a half together.
In the Oval?
In the Oval Office, talking about family, friends, freedom, friendship. He became my friend. He is my friend to this day. We have a special relationship. He said that he would never let me down. And I said I would stick by him, and I have, and even when things were a little tougher there for a while. And I changed, and I became, after I spoke to him an hour and a half, he said, Jeff, you need to become a Republican. And I said, Mr. President, I will become a Republican. And he said, let's do it right now. He had the floor, right? I said, Mr. President, him, he jumped up, he did it. All his media people around him were all wide-eyed. I said, Mr. President, I got to go home first and tell my wife and kid.
Yeah.
So we'll do it real soon. And we did, like a couple.
So what was that process like?
It was interesting. It was a little tough. Some people on the Democrat side obviously were very angry with me and called me a lot of mean names. And exactly. I knew what I was doing right. I believed what I was doing. I am so much happier, for real, being a Republican. I get to say what I want. There's no censorship. I do what I want. I believe what I want. I vote the way that I want to vote. And I believe in the basic principles of the Republican Party.
But the Democrats up here are not like that. The way Nancy Pelosi, and I wasn't here under her reign as Speaker, you could not vote how you wanted to. You had to fall in line with the Democrat caucus, or you were out.
Exactly. And you'll notice now even, that they try to run that as tight a ship as they can. Look, one thing you got to give Nancy Pelosi, I disagree with almost everything she stands for. However, she ran a tight ship, man. She could have been in the military. She's like a military unit for the left, the socialist military unit. I mean, she could be scary and was very strong. And I wouldn't put up with it. I didn't believe in it.
But and that's some of the criticism we get on the Republicans, because people see the division within our conference. They see the infighting. But I tell people that's because we're all independently minded. And the Speaker, whether it's Johnson now or Kevin McCarthy before him said, vote your district, vote your conscience.
Yep.
And we do that.
And we do it. Look, freedom is messy. You know, a democracy, a republic is messy. It doesn't flow smoothly. It's not a totalitarian, form of government. But it's worth it. It's worth it. And let me say this. Republicans weren't perfect.
No, we're not.
I'm going to be very...
But we don't claim to be.
We don't claim to be. We've got some knuckleheads on our side, and we know, and I'm not going to mention any names.
Present company excluded.
That you, not me. But that's okay. But the basic philosophy of loving the United States of America and believing in it, and believing in this freedom and this special thing we have, and not wanting to structurally, substantively change it with things like open borders.
Yeah.
Or demoralizing our military, or demeaning our police, or doing all the other things, or, literally trying to change our very economy. All the things, we as Republicans want to keep in America.
We're talking with Jeff Van Drew, my friend, a congressman from New Jersey. When we come back, we're going to talk more about your relationship with Donald J. Trump. I want people, I know him. I don't know him as well as you do, but maybe some stories that can tell folks what the real Trump is like. I think you'll be amazed at some of these stories. We're talking with Jeff Van Drew. This is Mark Alford's America. We'll be right back. Welcome back to Mark Alford's America, where we give you a behind-the-scenes look at Washington, D.C., and let you meet some of the great folks that I know as we work together to make America great again. Congressman Jeff Van Drew is from New Jersey, friend of mine, and he's a close personal friend of Donald J. Trump. The convention is coming up. I know you're going to be there. In fact, you're speaking, aren't you, at some point?
I believe, yes. The president said he wanted me to speak. We'll see how that works out. I know there's a lot of people that want to, but he personally told me, I want you to speak, Van Drew. So I imagine something will work out with that. I don't know when they're going to let me know, but whenever it is, I'll do it. I'm ready.
I'm excited to. This is my first time to be as a politician. I'm going to be a delegate as well. I've covered previous conventions, but it's an exciting time in America, and you can feel the dam starting to break in America. The tide is turning. I truly believe that our greatest days are ahead. I know President Trump feels the same way. When I talk to him, I tell him, Mr. President, I want to make America great again, but I also want to make Americans great again. I want to inspire people to greatness like Ronald Reagan did. And I think we've seen a little change in tone by the president in reaching out to people that maybe the Republicans have written off and ignored. He wants to include everyone into what we're doing.
He does. When I changed, became a Republican, we had dozens and dozens of conservative elected officials who changed in New Jersey, in southern New Jersey, who became Republican as well. For that very reason, they hung in there, and they were loyal to me, to be honest with you, but there was no room for them. I'm reaching out right now as we're on this radio show and saying to the people that are listening, because you've got people that are independents listening, and Democrats and Republicans, to the Democrats who believe in traditional American values, to the independents who believe in the greatness of the United States of America. Don't be disheartened. And I ask you to vote for President Trump. You may not like his way once in a while. He's very outspoken. I get a kick out of it. Yeah. I understand some people don't. But this is about fighting for our freedom, for the real America. And you're right. You referenced before, speaking about the Donald Trump that not everybody sees all the time. So I've had the opportunity to have dinner with him numerous times, to spend time with him, certainly that very first time when we became friends. He cares about people. This I will say without question, and I will swear it to anybody. He loves the United States of America more than anything. He really does. And he loves people. He really does want to help people. There's always a disgruntled employee. He's had thousands of them.
Yeah.
But the majority, I remember there's a lot in New Jersey because he has a couple of country clubs in New Jersey. He built casinos in New Jersey. I speak to people every single day that tell me something they did. A single mom who was really up against it, and he paid her rent for a year. Somebody who was really having problems, needed health care, he helped them out. Somebody else, these are all true stories, who had cancer and needed to go to another facility that was hard to get into because it was a very special kind of cancer, unfortunately. He got them in and helped them out. Just average everyday people. If you go after him, he's going to fight hard. He's a New Yorker, and he's going to fight hard, and he's going to be tough. But if you need help, if you're somebody that's a good person, he'll work with you. And he's very rambunctious. So the story I told was, it really was funny that day when we were talking about it. And, he said, Jeff Andrew, you should be a Republican. And I said, Mr. President, I will be a Republican. We literally were sitting together like we are now. He jumped up and he said, let's do it right now. And his staff, Kellyanne Conway and some of his other staff, their eyes got as wide as saucers because they weren't prepared for that. But he does that. He does that. You don't see that in American politics anymore, just that, that expressing yourself, not being held back, not doing everything politically perfect all the time. It's a good thing. We're all human beings. So I enjoy him. But whether you enjoy him or not is not the thing here. This is an issue that it's important.
What's at stake if he is not elected?
There you go. That's what I was going to say. You took it right out of my mouth. This is the most important election since the Civil War. I'm not exaggerating. This is a really big deal. We have two paths that we can take. One of them is to still continue to be a republic, to be the America that we know. The other one is to have open borders, to not support our police, to change structurally our military. I don't care what people do in their bedroom. I really don't, Mark. But don't force it on my kids, and don't make me pay for it. And in the military now, as you know, in the legislation, all these bills that came forward, they have all this stuff in there, welcoming transgenders, paying for abortions, even if you are pro-choice. And I'm not, I'm pro-life. But even if you are pro-choice, you don't believe that. We all should pay for your abortion. Doing all that in the military, having courses and different things about transgender and being transgender, and that's not, military is not the place for that. The military...
Well, that's why recruitment and retention is
down. Absolutely. I mean, we know why it's down. And, if you want to go to the grocery store and be able to afford your groceries, if you want to be... This is a fact, Mark. It costs, and you know this, let me put it this way. If you want to buy a modest home now in the United States of America, you have to earn twice the income that you had earned 4 years ago. I mean, people are getting tired of it, man. We want the good old days, but they weren't that far back. It was 4 years ago. We've done a lot of bad stuff in a short amount of time.
This election, I firmly believe, is going to come down to security. Our border security, economic security, our security in our homes to feel safe. The lawlessness and disorder now in our streets is promulgated by this administration, promulgated by George Soros, funding these DAs that are letting thugs basically run wild in our streets. And Trump's not going to put up for it.
He's not going to put up with it, and he's not going to encourage it the way this administration does. Just look at what happened to Donald Trump in New York. Now, I'm on Judiciary. We go through this, and we get in the weeds on all this stuff on the Judiciary Committee. Alvin Bragg, who was the prosecutor, ran for office as a prosecutor saying that he was going to get Donald Trump.
Right.
The Attorney General in the state of New York ran for office the same way, where there's supposed to be objectivity and the rule of law. They ran as, cheap politicians, in my opinion, on that they were going to go after a political figure, Donald Trump. The judge in this case, this is what's happening in our urban areas. The judge in this case was a Democrat that supported Biden and spent money doing so. His daughter was involved and handled millions upon millions of dollars.
Raised money for Democrats.
Raised money for Democrats. All of it was corrupt. And you know what we're doing in our cities now? They like to say the crime rate is down. The crime rate's not down. I'll give you an example. The city of New York, 60% of all the felonies that are committed are reduced to misdemeanors. That's why the crime rate's down. It's more dangerous than it ever was. You can't do that. It's wrong. So we love criminals. We love illegals. We love everybody that doesn't love America. We love countries where, good God, I mean, Iran. Why did the Mideast happen? Because we allowed Iran to make all this money because we took the sanctions off. Look what happened in Ukraine. It would have never happened if Donald Trump was president. He tells a great story about that.
We've got a few seconds left. What do you love most about America, Jeff?
Freedom. Freedom is something that the ability to reach for the brass ring, regardless, and it's true, I was a poor kid growing up, of who you are, of what you do, if you work hard, if you believe, if you're focused, at whatever level of life you are, you can achieve. You can really achieve greatness, and America's going to achieve even more greatness in the future.
Jeff, I'm honored to be your friend. Thank you.
Right back at you. Thank you.
Thanks for joining us for Mark Alford's America. We'll talk again next week. Until then, remember, I believe in you. I believe that our best days are still ahead of us. And Jefferson Van Drew, I believe in America.
Me too. I'm right back out.
All right.